Thank you for joining today. We will start in a few minutes. Okay, we're just about to get started.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Johnson & Johnson Institute webinar series. This webinar is a collaboration of Johnson & Johnson Vision and Association of Malaysian Optometrists. My name is Karen Cheng from Johnson & Johnson Professional Education Team in Asia Pacific. Also in the team today is Lindsay, who is leading the webinar together with me. Today, we are very privileged to have Mr. Woon Seong, President of Association of Malaysian Optometrists, and Ms. Shirley Low, Professional Education Associate Director from Johnson & Johnson Vision Southeast Asia. Mr. Woon and Shirley will be sharing with us the latest, most updated evidence from around the world related to COVID-19 and contact lenses. In addition, Shirley will be inviting two panelists, one from Australia, Dr. Oliver Wu, whom you all know very well, and one from Taiwan, Paula Seong, a marketing expert, to share some insights with all of us today. Prior to passing over to our speakers, there are a few housekeepings that need to be reminded. Please be reminded that we are in the webinar mode, therefore all participants will be put on mute. Only the presenter and the facilitator will be unmuted. However, if you have any question during the webinar, please raise it through the Q&A section by clicking the Q&A icon on your screen. After the webinar, we will hold a live Q&A session with our speakers. During the webinar, we encourage all of you to actively participate in the polls. Now, over to you, Mr. Woon and Shirley, and looking forward to learn from both of you and the panelists today. Shirley and Mr. Woon.
Thank you, Karen. And I'll give the first opportunity to Mr. Woon to open up and give his introduction. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. And the Association of Malaysian Optometrists is truly privileged to work together with Johnson & Johnson and the experts around the region to bring you updated news and what we know as we go through this COVID pandemic together. I think a lot of us thought that it was going to be an apocalypse, but it's not really there. So we are trying to grasp the new norm. So we are truly privileged today to have Lindsay, Paula, Shirley, Karen, and our buddy here, Dr. Oliver Wu, to share with us all the insights from all around the world, as well as what is happening in their respective regions as well. So we'll want to thank all the audience for attending today's webinar, setting aside your precious schedule. And we are truly in for a treat for a really good webinars here. And lastly, before I sign off, to our Muslim friends who's going to prepare to celebrate Hari Raya over this Sunday and Monday, we wish you happy preparing as you celebrate this festive occasion with your loved ones. Back to you, Shirley.
Thank you, Mr. Woon. So as Mr. Woon said, we have a very packed webinar for you today. And so before we kick off, I'll just give a quick introduction of myself as well for those of you who perhaps haven't attended our previous webinars. So I am an optometrist, having grown up in Australia and practiced there in retail optometry, and also playing a part in the association over there as well as joining Johnson & Johnson Vision over 9 years ago, where I continue to work closely with optometrists like yourselves to build this industry and make it even more professional. I'm very passionate about what we do for work. It's important in primary eye care to be able to serve the people of Malaysia and all the communities that we live in. And during this time, of course, it's very challenging. We understand that it's a hard time for us all, in which case it would be interesting to hear from you how challenging it has been. So we might open up with our initial poll to find out about the traffic that's coming into your store. So perhaps, Lindsay, will open up this poll for you. All you need to do is click on the answer that makes sense to you. So over to you, Lindsay. Since returning after MCO, how much has traffic dropped compared to pre-COVID? So this is how much it has reduced. So if you could put your answer in and press submit, we'll be able to see how many responses. We'll just give it a couple more minutes. So Lindsay, if we have enough, if we have more than 150 responses, we can actually look at the results. Okay, so now the results are ready. Okay, so the majority of you say either 25 to 50 or up to even 75%. So perhaps, Woon, do you have any comments for this?
I think this is reflected in what we see with what we will warn off in China as well, where the first month was 47% and second month could be around 60%. Yeah, so I think this is consistent.
And for your own practice, Mr. Woon, what would you say is relevant for you?
Okay, so my own practice, we have started since the 4th of May. For the first 2 weeks, we are only down by 3%. But we don't think this is the norm because we have not been open since then. So we think that this is a pent-up demand. So we saw a lot of spectacles broken and so on. Really emergency cases, as well as replenishment of contact lenses. But we don't think this will be carrying on for the next few months. We will probably have to see the next few months with the actual data then.
Sure. So we need to wait to see what the real new norm really looks like. How about yourself, Ollie, in Australia? What would you say? And you're on mute right now.
Casey, can you hear me? Because where I'm working is where the first few cases started. So it's still affecting the overall sales in my practice. There are lots of people ordering contact lenses in the beginning. Lots of people, they're scared about they don't have contact lenses. So the first few weeks, a lot of people ordering contact lenses. Glasses probably minimal because not many people willing to come or scared to come. And I think probably the same to Malaysia. Maybe next 1 to 2 months time, you will see the more effect. Yeah.
Okay,
and,
that's interesting.
We drop about 60 to 70% now.
So similar for yourself as well. So we're all in a very similar position. And it's an interesting point you raised that, you know, people came in to buy a bit of a bulk supply of contact lenses and maybe not so much for spectacles. So that's an interesting observation. Just to share other consumer insights, this is some other research I found, what's on top of people's minds. And, you know, they have their own problems too, of course. So your patients have their own worries at the moment about job security, about personal health, about what they're doing with their children. So knowing and being very empathetic with your patients obviously is an important part in being able to connect with them in a way that is resonating well with them. And also we did some survey in Malaysia about consumer insights right here. So I'd like to share with you some of those insights. So it's actually 528 respondents, and you can see there's a range of age groups. but mostly in the contact lens wearing age groups, as you can see here. So interestingly, the question we asked was, how do you think COVID-19 will influence your contact lens usage after MCO? Actually, 80% will continue to use their contact lenses. 43% will continue to use like normal. 34% will pay more attention to cleanliness. And perhaps 21% may consider stop using for some time. For me, I actually feel that this is quite a positive result, because contact lens use is something part of that person's lifestyle already. They're not willing to give it up, and they don't see any reason why they should. And as our role as eye care professionals, we should help them with that desire. When it comes to the top need in regards to contact lens with COVID, it's an open-ended question, but what came up by far is actually hygiene. So it's been a while, perhaps, that some people have even thought about their contact lens hygiene. And again, as eye care professionals, if we can be there, holding their hand, sending reassuring messages to them, and even when they're in our practice, driving that same message about how to do it so they feel empowered, but also that it is a continued safe practice to continue wearing contact lenses. This is something to really keep in mind. As you can see, discount and promotion is far below, less than 5 times less, really, when it comes to what's on top of people's mind at this stage. So really interesting insights from this survey. Actually, I'd like to ask the same question to my colleague, Ms. Paula Sun from Taiwan, to share some comments about what's happening over there. Now, Paula, I understand it was a slightly different situation in Taiwan because there was no MCO. And in fact, stores were able to remain open, but certainly there was a reduction in traffic. So can you tell me about the situation that happened in Taiwan?
So actually in Taiwan, Taiwan is less.
Sorry, Paula, I'm having a little trouble hearing you right now. Can you come a little bit closer? Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great.
Is it okay now?
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay. Taiwan
Oh, sorry, Paula. It seems like the audio has cut out again. So perhaps it's something to do with the audio settings. Perhaps, if you don't mind, maybe you can try to find another headset or headphone, and we will go to your section again later, because I think, yeah, we're having just trouble a bit hearing you right now. So we'll try again in a few minutes. Okay, great. So let's get back to Paula when we sort out the audio problem. In the meantime, as we mentioned, this webinar is about the latest evidence and instruction from around the world, and we'd like to look at our most esteemed and prestigious institutions to gather their information and their advice. So I'm starting off with the World Council of Optometry, being a subsection of the World Health Organization, and their key takeaway messages are that you can keep wearing contact lenses, and there's no evidence that contact lenses increase the risk compared to wearing glasses. Of course, good hygiene is critical, as we have heard in previous webinars, and I'm sure you're very familiar with now, the hygiene that is required to upkeep that and be very diligent about hand washing. In fact, regular eyeglasses don't provide protection. As always, whether you're a vision correction wearer or not, keep your unwashed hands away from your face, and to stop wearing contact lenses if you're temporarily ill. So it's important that we continue to follow the guidelines from the World Health Organization, and there are a lot of resources that are available now, a lot of online courses that you can get your hands on. So this is an overarching advice from the World Council of Optometry, but I'd like to also go into some detail from some of the other bodies that are out there. So before that, Paula, can we just check if your audio is working now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Much better, yes.
Okay,
Fantastic.
okay, good. Okay, thank you, Shirley.
In Taiwan, could you explain more details?
Yeah, actually, similar in other countries, in Taiwan, we also face a strong voice from the government affairs and ophthalmologists against the contact lens wear. But actually, from our media monitoring, we didn't see a lot of negative sentiments toward this kind of news. What we see here in Taiwan is that for people who use contact lens regularly for their in their daily life, they see contact lens as a must. So even during COVID situation, they continue their usage of contact lens. So would like to share this kind of insight from Taiwan with you all. So don't worry about the contact lens usage will decrease continually. Actually, the demand is there. So what we see here is that our optical store, they continue open, but they suffer from the traffic loss. But the ECP here in Taiwan, what they did is that they try to manage their business fundamentals. So they're focusing on the existing users, the existing users of contact lens wearer. Also focusing on the replenishment for these kind of users. So at least they can manage the business fundamental and sustain the business. We see some practice here in Taiwan is that for the key accounts, they have the CM database. So they blast the message to their members about the caring message, like how to use the contact lens and manage the right personal hygiene practice. And also they offer the replenish offer offering to the members. And for the aside from the key account, we also see from the independent store owners, they also are doing the same thing using their data. So maybe they will call back for their existing users for the caring and for the hygiene reminder, and also for the replenish reminder.
That's great. And in fact, a lot of the ECPs are also doing some of blasting out on their own social media, right, Paula?
Yeah. So I think maybe across all Asia country, you will see a new norm here. In Taiwan, what we see is that during the situation, people spending more time on digital screens. So we need to be where they are. So a lot of ECPs, they are really utilize their social media, like Line in Taiwan, maybe WeChat in Malaysia, and also the Facebook fan pages. So they leverage the social media to connect their users. And for Activity, what we did and supporting is that we provide the diversified content to them. Given during this kind of situation, consumer needs some carry message instead of all selling or promotional message. So we have the carry message to remind them how to use the contact lens, what's the right usage to take care of your personal hygiene. And aside from that, ECP here, they also adapt the new norm quickly. They have the direct-to-patient service. So we also support them with this kind of assets for them to communicate through the social media.
A couple of really great points there, Paula. First of all, the first message that the ECP send out is one about a caring message. It's about hygiene, about how to take care of contact lens. It's not about selling or pushing product to them. So I think that that's a very good point. And secondly, about really maximizing use of social media. If you haven't used that muscle yet and it's something that you need to develop, it's a good opportunity to do that now, and perhaps to use some of the content that suppliers can provide to, because it's actually quite hard to build content if you're just starting that journey. So it's really wonderful to share. And I understand even in the stores in Taiwan, they have things like markings for social distancing and all the hygiene procedures. Is that correct?
Yeah, they have some procedures to take care of the personal hygiene and also ensure that when consumers going into the store, they feel very safe and very comfortable in the store. So they even put the social distancing stickers on the floor to manage that the distance is enough to protect the consumers.
Great. So again, a reminder, pre, during and post our interactions with our patients, there's a lot of proactive interventions that we can try. So thank you, Paula, for that sharing, and all the best in Taiwan. So let me just continue. Okay, so I'm just going to play a video here from, again, the experts to show the real message and behind contact lens usage. As Paula mentioned, in Taiwan, they actually had the situation where they had some even sort of government messages pertaining to contact lenses maybe not being safe. But there are a lot of misconceptions out there, and this is a great video to dispel some of that.
Talk about it, Gretchen. You hit the key word, misinformation. I think there's a lot of knowledge out on the press that's gotten to the consumer that perhaps contact lenses shouldn't be worn while COVID-19 pandemic is going on. And the fact remains that there's no evidence to associate contact lens wear or contact lens wear causing COVID-19. And that was even supported by the Centers for Disease Control this week. So we know that contact lenses are safe. We always recommend, as we had in the past, that if you're wearing disposable lenses, daily disposables, throw them away as soon as you wear them, as soon as you get done wearing them. If you're wearing 2 weekly, monthly, longer replacement lenses, always clean and disinfect them as recommended by your eye care professional.
So, again, there's a lot of great expert videos out there if you're happy to share some of those with your patients who may have concerns. This one was, from America, but of course, all of the messages that are coming out from many of the institutions globally have a similar theme. So he did mention about, as always, under any circumstances, whether there's a pandemic or not, we should stick with our hygiene protocols. Daily disposables are preferred. And of course, if we're wearing a reusable, we have to manage them with the right care solution. So at this stage, we can open up to poll number 2. It'll be interesting to hear about behaviours and sentiment. Has there been an increase in interest in daily disposables among contact lens wearers? Not at all, a little, or a lot. Okay, so again, just submit your question and we'll just see what the results are. So Lindsay will flash the results. Okay, a little increase. And it doesn't surprise me, I guess, not everyone is very proactive in asking what they want for their to their eye care professional. So it reminds me that as an eye care professional, I have to be the one leading the conversation, because we know that hygiene and safety is on your patient's mind. So even if they're not actively asking you, that is perhaps a concern they might be having. So it's something that you could raise. Woon, would you have anything to add to this particular poll result?
Yeah, we do find that some of the patients are requesting for daily disposables. One of the target group is, you'd be surprised that during the MCO, people are actually doing yoga or exercises within their own homes, and so in these situations, they are actually requesting for daily disposables for these particular activities. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's a great insight. Yes, and that's wonderful to be able to think about the new norm in terms of what our patients are doing too. They have a different lifestyle need as well. And certainly a lot of people are just doing their non-stop Zoom calls and meetings right now. And they are trying to do a bit of activity in between to make sure they stay healthy. So again, contact lens can play a big role in that. So moving on to more of our information here. So here are some key takeaway messages from some of the leading authorities in cornea and contact lens. This is the review of cornea and contact lens. We can see here that they do recommend that you can continue to wear contact lenses during this time. They actually state that even if COVID-19 can be transmitted through the eyes, which it hasn't been proven yet, in fact, the virus will infect through the ocular mucous membrane whether a person is wearing contact lenses or not. So the fact that people may assume that contact lenses provides more risk, that's not the case. And if you can imagine, if a virus particle is going to enter the ocular cavity, whether the person is wearing contact lenses or not, it will actually contact the person that way anyway. Important to note as well that spectacles don't provide adequate protection. In this particular body, they actually say that they may represent a potential source of contagion, possibly more than contact lenses, because we are touching and putting our our spectacles on and off. So actually disinfecting and having some wipes available to wipe down the glasses a few times per day is actually recommended by a few of these bodies. Again, maybe it's a reminder you can give to the patients either online or the ones that come into your practice. Perhaps you may consider stocking some of those sort of wipes that you can use for spectacles as well, either as a giveaway or as a purchase for your patients. And of course, the usual contact lens wearing hygiene does continue. Basically, all of the bodies recommend that anyone stops contact lens wear if they feel unwell, which is usually the case anyhow. This is from the American Optometric Association. They very clearly state that contact lenses themselves will not give you COVID-19. Again, about practicing good hygiene, proper hand washing. They recommend for more than 20 seconds. Again, we've mentioned that last webinar, but 20 seconds is quite a long time if we're really counting it out, but it is important to try and stick to that. And to dispose and take care of the lenses properly. So you can see a lot of repetition here. You can see a lot of agreement between the different bodies, which is great because as a practitioner, we want to know the punchline, what is it that we need to do? And basically, you know, all of the bodies actually do agree with each other. The College of Optometrists have a slightly different view when it comes to primary eye care. They encourage optometrists to consider, first of all, balancing the risk of vision loss and acquiring COVID-19. So, for example, it's a great reminder that as eye care professionals, we do play a role in primary eye care. And if someone is putting off their appointment with you because they are, you know, worried about contracting COVID-19, but in the meantime, they're having a retinal detachment or some kind of diabetic retinopathy that should be treated, you know, we have to really help consider what is actually going to be the worst of two evils. And if we do have all those safety mechanisms in place, the personal protective equipment, it's actually a safe environment to come into an optical store. So they do have this decision tree about is the patient needing to come in for a face-to-face assessment, and if that is true, then that's the requirement that they actually come in. Is it likely that the diagnosis is able to be done by the optometrist? If not, they're actually considering to suggest to those patients to go directly to the hospital. So if someone that you're doing a pre-appointment screening call with, it sounds like they have something that would have to be treated by an ophthalmologist anyway, consider sort of bypassing yourself, but you could still help them with the referral and you could still help them, point them in the right direction and perhaps even arrange that appointment for them. The College of Optometrists very much empowers optometrists to do more teleoptometry services, and this is something that is going to be in growing demand, I believe, in the next few years. Again, they have different strategies to cope with this current time, which includes providing consultant-led and triaging services to emergency conditions, and also use of existing primary eye care optometrists to see non-urgent cases. So really, this is about maximizing the use of resources. This is point number 5 here. So what this means is that although we want to see the patients that should be seen, we don't want those that are not urgent to go and clog up the hospital system either. So it's actually our role to help with these primary eye care needs, to diagnose those particular conditions. Perhaps someone has dry eye or allergy or something like that. That is something that we could help our patients with, and they not necessarily have to go into the hospital system. So the College of Optometrists encourage optometrists to have an overall wide view of their role during this pandemic. The Canadian Association of Optometrists have a very similar outlook to both the American and World Council of Optometry. So what we need to do is obviously continue to do our hygiene, maintain social distancing. There's a bit of variation. Some bodies say 1 meter, some say 1.5 meters. I think in reality, 1 meter is probably more relevant or able to be practiced in your practice. But of course, we don't encourage any shaking of hands, and of course, we should contact patients in advance to check if they've had any symptoms, just to ensure that they haven't traveled anywhere or come into proximity with someone who may have had COVID-19. I think everyone is understanding if you ask these questions at this stage over the phone. I don't think that's something that they would take offense to, but it's just an extra protocol to protect yourself and your staff and to make sure that you play your role. Other important considerations. So this is from Contact Lens and Anterior Eye, which is one of the major journals of the British Contact Lens Association. So again, they state there's no evidence of increased risk of contracting COVID-19 through contact lenses. And similarly, there's no evidence that spectacles provide protection. We should still manage adverse events. We still need to take that precaution. If we have patients that really do need us, we would like to play that role. And we can see here very similar sets of advice. The European Council of Optometry, again, asked everyone to put in place a pre-appointment questionnaire. So it'll be interesting to see how many of you actually have any sort of protocols in place to do these things. In Singapore, people do have to make an appointment before coming into an optical shop. It's not so much the case in Malaysia, but it's something that perhaps we can start to encourage. And perhaps this is an opportunity for the industry to make it a new norm that appointments are what is expected between the eye care professional and the patient. So again, disinfecting the shop's equipment regularly, any hard surfaces. The European Council actually recommends airing the shop regularly and avoiding air conditioning. Well, I guess they don't live in Malaysia, so they don't know what it's like to live without air conditioning, but perhaps you could still consider airing out your shop. It can actually help to put fresh air in. It's something that we don't really think about much because it's something that we haven't practiced. And perhaps it might not be so easy if you're in the middle of a mall or something like that. But in any case, perhaps a good point to remember is to service the air conditioning regularly, have it chemically cleaned regularly. That's the best that we could do in this case. Now I'll just go on to poll question 3. So Lindsay will flash this up as well. And I see a few questions coming in, so don't forget to type your questions into the message box. Since returning, what's your approach to contact lens prescribing? And we did ask a similar question last webinar, but it'll be interesting to see what perceptions are now that you've returned to your practices. Replenishing existing wearers and recruiting new wearers, only replenishing existing wearers and you do not recruit new wearers, or only allow existing wearers to wear daily disposables. Please put the answer that best describes your practice. Okay, I think that should be enough time for most of us to answer. So let's see how the prescribing habits have changed this time. Right, so the majority of us are actually doing replenishing of existing wearers and recruiting new wearers just as you normally would. So I'm glad that you guys have the confidence to be able to do that. Only replenish existing wearers, do not recruit new wearers. And of course that is quite acceptable as well. And only allow existing wearers to wear daily disposables. Some of you actually choose that one. Woon, can I ask what's your thoughts on this poll result? Mr. Woon.
I'm actually quite surprised that for the vast, I'm actually quite surprised that the vast majority is it's practicing towards norm, and that's a very good sign. to me, that's a good sign.
Yeah, yeah, it's very promising. It means that we have the confidence and we're able to actually communicate that to our patients. So I'm hoping that with the materials that we present today, perhaps that adds to that ammunition of the things that you can say to reassure your patients. Okay, let me move on. Now, I've just put a table of summary here together to try and show how there is a lot of consistency among these bodies. So some of these things that I was sharing earlier, and I've sort of separated this out into personal protective equipment during contact lens practice, hand hygiene, staff management, patient management, equipment hygiene, and allowing lens wear. So the most important point I'd like to highlight, and as you've probably heard, is that all of the bodies allow people to continue to wear contact lens. And so there's no established body out there that is really saying that is a bad idea right now when it comes to the contact lens space. You can actually see there are slight differences when it comes to protocols. You can see that the European Contact Lens Society of Ophthalmologists recommends an N95 mask, water-resistant gloves and goggles. Perhaps ophthalmologists are also doing more invasive procedures, so they feel that more rigorous personal protective equipment is necessary. But for the majority of the other bodies, it's just about having maybe a face mask, minimizing our talking, having respiratory etiquette. And I guess what that means is having your face mask and face shield in place for doing procedures, for example, like slit lamp. So another thing that we'll notice here is that a few of the bodies are recommending that you do have some kind of established protocol for what we do for symptoms and for pre-appointment preparation. So for example, for staff management, will you be measuring their temperature daily? Who will be monitoring for symptoms, and what do you do if they have certain symptoms? To have this in place so that, if one of your staff shows up in the shop one day a little unwell, and then deciding what you have to do with them or what you have to say to them, it might come as a bit of a shock. So having prepared that in the first place may be helpful for you. And training all staff on occupational exposure is recommended by the American Optometric Association. So what exactly do we need to say and do? Where are the sources of potential contagion for your staff? So they understand how serious it is, but also how to keep themselves safe. You'll notice that the pre-appointment questions come up a few times, and having a protocol for patients with symptoms too. Some of the associations actually encourage patients to wash their hands regularly when they come in. So that's from the Canadian Association of Optometrists. So perhaps that could be linked with their other suggestion, which is having a hand washing station just for your patients, which could consist of soap, water, but also alcohol disinfectant too. So perhaps one of your staff can be the one that directs them to this area when they first enter, to encourage them to wash their hands and perhaps do the same thing as they leave. And it can be done in obviously a very caring way rather than a forceful way, but it's actually makes the patient feel very safe. And the fact that they have to do it and they realize everyone in the practice has had to go through the same protocol would put them at ease to know that the way that you're running your practice is very safe and hygienic, and they would feel safe to come back again. Interestingly though, all of the bodies seem to say things like regular and frequent disinfection of the equipment. So there isn't very specific advice when it comes to this, and I think at Johnson & Johnson Vision, we've taken upon ourselves to get some expert collaboration around these specifics to get some more detailed protocols, which I'll be able to share in a little while. And of course, when it comes to daily wear, that's the safest for contact lenses, but keeping in mind that contact lenses per se are still okay to wear if the proper procedures are followed. I just wanted to bring up as well the GP Lens Institute, Gas Permeable Lens Institute recommendations for cleaning. So for gas permeable lenses, they suggest hydrogen peroxide. and disinfecting for more than 3 hours and rinsing with multi-purpose solution. When it comes to hybrid and soft lenses, they actually recommend a very similar kind of protocol and neutralizing for 6 or more hours, since it is soft lens as well. We had some questions in the last webinar which solution would be needed. In fact, it's still not 100% certain because there isn't enough evidence around this, but certainly, as we know, hydrogen peroxide solutions have been touted as the gold standard, but do look out for other solutions that can meet the same disinfection standards as hydrogen peroxide, because we know that not all patients want a 2-step process when it comes to cleaning their lenses. So this one was for gas permeable lenses. Now we will open up to question number 4 in the polling. So we will share this question now. Do patients have any questions or concerns about COVID and contact lens wear? So are patients actually bringing this up to you while they're in your practice? Let's find out. When they come to replenish, would they have questions for you, or do they just sort of ask as if it's normal and they just want to replenish? Okay, let's see what the answer is. This is how our patients are perceiving. Just a minute while the results come up. Okay, a little. So again, it's interesting to see that some of the press that came out about not having to wear contact lenses really hasn't bothered patients too much, but we know in general things like personal health and hygiene are on top of people's minds right now. So again, being proactive in messaging that and the way that you conduct your practice will really help with them. So have you experienced a similar thing, Mr. Woon? People don't seem that concerned when they come in to replenish their contact lenses. Are they asking you any specific questions?
Majority of them do not have any problems at all, of course, because I think the patients have been exposed to social media as well as reports and so on. So I think quite a number of people would respond that contact lens is not safe and so on from the ophthalmologist side and so on. So I think reassurance as well as emphasization, we will emphasize the need for proper hygiene to happen. Yeah, I think it's just quite a few, not many, but we need to enforce the need for an eye check as well as your regular examination.
Great point. That it's actually a good time to remind patients, because we know that compliance is always an issue, and now we don't have to sound like we're nagging them. We actually have a genuine reason to be reminding them about procedures like that. So as I mentioned, we've developed some and collated some of the practice management advice. So we're suggesting, so basically 1 to 1.5 meters is what is being touted at the moment. Like Paula said, you can have some social distancing markings in and around your practice to ensure that is being followed. When it comes to cleaning and disinfection, suggested that hydrogen peroxide and Clorox and more than 70% alcohol or diluted bleach can be solutions that you clean the equipment with. And all rooms and waiting areas should be decluttered and sanitized. So for example, if you used to have an area with toys for kids or something like that, it's probably time to remove that, at least temporarily. Spectacle frames, soap and water after every trial frames, also soap and water after every patient. And chin and headrests before and after being used should be sanitized as well. It's interesting that there are a lot of surfaces that get touched a lot that perhaps we forget about. It might be, again, a protocol that you develop with your staff, that they have a checklist that they can actually remember what they've disinfected, so they can tick it all off and make sure that it's being done. So things like doorknobs, handles, light switches, mirrors, countertops, tables, FMOS machines, cash registers, even things like the AC remote, all those various things that we do touch by different people. It's a good idea to clean those. And, you know, a checklist is obviously the easiest way to be able to ensure we remember to clean those surfaces. It's recommended that we clean and disinfect them every 2 hours. If you do have these protocols in place, you know, it's something that you can communicate to your patients, and obviously they will be seeing your staff doing it while they're, you know, waiting for their appointment, for example. Again, giving them reassurance that you know what you're doing in your practice. Is the procedure actually necessary and critical is a question we might need to ask when we're doing our testing. So it's suggested that we're avoiding non-contact tonometry because it's an aerosol generating procedure, avoiding perimetry because it's, again, impractical without damaging the machine to have to clean it to that extent. And eye drops and using those during the consultation, again, is probably not recommended. I'd like to suggest that the Centre for Ocular Research and Education has some great tools and resources that you can use. Their recommendations are also very similar to the other bodies that I've mentioned, but they've got some great infographics that can be you know, printed and displayed or sent to your patients. They also have some really great videos that if you do happen to have a screen or something that is available in your practice to show them, this is perhaps something that you can just have on loop so that people can watch this while they're waiting for their appointment. So let me just show you what this. See the point. It's a very professionally done video that enables you to put that up and gives people a lot of reassurance that it's actually fine to continue to wear contact lenses and how to do so if you happen to have a screen in your practice. There's also advice about hygiene. So I just wanted to play this video because it's a reminder about how patients actually do behave when it comes to contact lenses and the things that can go wrong every day and not just during pandemics. From the Centre of
Awesome. Yay! I'm excited. My name is Tay Levette. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I am a full-time paralegal and I own my own business. I didn't notice the problem with my eye until Friday before my wedding. On my wedding day, it was pretty crazy. I mean, I had to go to urgent care. I was at the emergency room. And then finally, I got back to the wedding. I feel very, very sad because I'm just like, my pictures are going to be awful. One of my bridesmaids comes to me and she says, listen, we have sunglasses. She was like, just try them on. So I take the sunglasses. I'm like, that's going to be stupid. And I put them on and I walk into the mirror and I look and I'm like, hey. So I was like, you know what? I said, we're going to wear sunglasses. And they're like, yes. The next morning I woke up and I could not see. I was just like, babe, gotta go to the hospital. We have to go to the ER. And the doctor took me in and he looks at mine. He goes, you have a corneal ulcer and we have to take care of this now or you will lose your eyesight.
Okay, so this is a typical story of someone who hadn't really thought about hygiene before, and she had a big wake-up call just before her wedding day. So a reminder that our patients are really not very compliant when it comes to their contact lens wear. So I'll just like to open up to question 5. How many of your patients are at least 90% compliant with their contact lens hygiene? So we know basically no one is 100% compliant, but we'd be pretty happy if they were 90% compliant. So how many of those would you say in your practice? You can answer that now. Okay, so let's see what the result is. Okay, so we have 60 to 80% of the majority are at least 90% compliant. I mean, that's great, but we still have a significant portion, you know, half of them or maybe less than half who are, you know, really compliant all the time. So again, it's a great reminder at this stage in the pandemic to have this conversation, and you can come across as very caring to our patients. So I'll just move on actually so that we can get straight on to I will skip straight to Dr. Ollie because he's got some great messages to share. Being proactive during this time, during the pandemic, just finished the MCO in Malaysia. So Dr. Ollie is going to share about his version of MCO. So Dr. Ollie.
Hi, everyone. Miss you guys so much. So have the privilege to share with you my MCO, my COVID-19 life in Malaysia. So, oops.
Slide.
Okay. Shirley, control
So
it.
next slide. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's we can see what's happened to the lifestyle to a lot of Malaysians when the MCO happened. A lot of people rushed back to home, and the key message everyone is stay home, stay safe. So something really important is how we look at MCO. Next one. So what does MCO really mean to us? The M, let's have a look. Next, we're missing, during the MCO, I think a lot of people missing people, everyone cooking friends. That's the time that we all missing during the MCO. So let's look at what the C really means for coffee time. I remember first time I met a Malaysian guy, he called Daduk. He gave me a pack of coffee. He said, this is coffee. Malaysian love coffee. So that's why people a lot of time they can't stand together coffee time. And what's O now? This is Shirley. He loved online shopping during the MCO. So a lot of people spend a lot of time on the internet because they're at home. So let's look what really MCO means to me. Yes, at the time we miss so much of the people. And during this time, we have to pay tribute to the people in the hospital who help us in fighting for this disease. And we miss so much of the time we together in MCO time. So the time that we really miss is the bonding together. And a lot of time we staying home together. So let's look really what I want to share what the MCO really means. So the M, CO. The M, which I want to share with you, is the maximize. The C is called capacity, and the O is the opportunity. So the MCO, which we have to maximize capacity and opportunity. So let's look what the maximize really means to us. So how to maximize? And during this time of the MCO, we've been to a lot of Zoom meeting and the webinar meeting. That's just how we are doing right now. Shirley, can keep going. So during this time, we enrich our knowledge and our skills. And I advise everyone during this time, they try to practice what you're good at. So what you're good at, practice the skill, what you're good at. Yeah. And understand the product and the technology. So what do you mean the product and technology? Something that we might not use. Some of the technologies that we never really look into. This is a time for us to really look into, such as some toric lenses, multifocal lenses, of some new material that we need to think about. For example, someone might look into some dry eyes in your practice in the future. So you have to prepare yourself during this time for the next boom. Not Zoom is the next boom. So how are we going to your capacity? So what is my capacity? So yeah, Shirley, yeah. It's the time when we're in the MCO, it's a time we really want everyone, the government want us to stay home, stay safe. At the same time, it's a time for us to reflect and refresh, knowing what you're not good at. This is a really important thing because during my time in Australia, I also stay and reflect and refresh what I'm not good at and try to improve and become better. And I've been looking for some mentor myself. You always ask, hey, Ollie, you still need to find mentor? I say, yes. I need to know what I'm not good at. So I need to find someone's better and I can learn. So people say, you must be really bad when it's to ask people, our friends to help. I say, it's not. So for example, we have Woon here, we have AMO here, a lot of really good people in the associations. Like for example, Shirley, Johnson & Johnson's the whole team, they can help you to grow together. So the next sentence is, I always believe is something never belonged to me until I share with you. That's why I'm so happy I have owned so many things, because I share so many things, especially Malaysian Singapore friend. I share with you those things that belong to me. And now you have to make sure you share your thing with all your colleagues at the same time. So let us look what is the O stand for. So you probably say, what opportunity? Yes, opportunity. Because we know that this time we have a new normal. Think about yourself. We have a different lifestyle, different purchasing pattern. People may spend a lot of time internet. So we have to think about what we're going to do. So we have to embrace the technology. That's why I said before, you try to maximize yourself, embrace the technology. What's the best things available in the market? What's the product? What's the equipment? What the things that you can prepare yourself? Because when the opportunity comes, you are the one is the best. You will be the leader in our profession, in an industry. It's really important. When we become a leader in the industry, how are we going to differentiate ourselves? Differentiation is really important. It's a time for us to become a really good optometrist, and we can show the public what meant by professionalism. So an outstanding eye care practitioner. I think that's what the government will see. The optometrist in Malaysia is not what they see an optometrist used to be. We are become really responsible person, not just to our patient, it's also to the community. And this is a lot sharing I'm going to share with you in the next slides. This is my last word to you. This is something called, this is a love called persistent. Perseverance because of love. For a lifetime, it looks really long. It is really short, but it's enough to do one thing wholeheartedly. You look at the Chinese version, I love Chinese more than English. So you have a look, one thing that we can do wholeheartedly, we all become a really outstanding, exceptional optometrist.
Thank you, Ollie. Yes, a great reminder. And interestingly, you're still learning. Everyone is still learning. And I think you have a great point that we should support and learn from each other. We're all having the same challenges right now. And the more that we share, the more that we learn from each other, the better that we will grow this industry towards professionalism. And back to my very first point in terms of what's on people's minds right now, it's of course their job security, but apart from that, their health, personal health, and to remind optometrists have this role in providing primary eye care and health. So thank you, Dr. Ollie Wu. So what we might do is just have a quick summary of what we covered today. Patients may have some concerns or challenges with contact lens use, help them to overcome. So they may have some concerns about hygiene, etc., challenges to get the lenses in the first place. Think about how you can adjust yourself to provide for them. Experts across the world saying that COVID-19 is not a reason to stop wearing contact lenses, and of course to embrace the new norm. And perhaps teleoptometry, things like that, we will be covering in future webinars as well. So with that, I'll actually open up to the Q&A for today. So back to you, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Woon, Shirley, Oliver, and Paula for such a informative and engaging session. So thank you very much. My personal key takeaway is I've got a new meaning for MCO, Ollie. Maximizing capacity and opportunity, the importance of uplifting our professionalism. How can we be a really outstanding optometrist? but yet it's very important to proactively reach out to our patient and our consumer via different means, social media, phone call, WhatsApp, just to give them that care and love, which is actually very important to all of us in this period of time. All right, so we are a little bit overrun, but I believe we should ask questions because there are a number of questions from the audiences, and we will actually answer them by according to the highest votes. Okay, so we have one question that have 5 votes. So that question is, what are the precautions to be taken while receiving contact lenses packs? Any recommendation on how to handle the packs? The contact lens would have moved through various hands and geography. So can I pass it over to Mr. Woon? Do you want to shed some lights on that?
Sure. So what we do is, you know, in Malaysia, we have delivery people who comes on motorcycles. And what we do is actually we do not allow them to step into our practice. We tell them don't come in. We'll come out and take it from you, because otherwise when you come in we have to take your temperature and do the whole works. Of course, our staff will be on mask, and you know all the safety protocol will be there. I think upon receiving contact lenses as well as eyewear or anything at all, you could do well to just to wipe it with we use alcohol. We use alcohol to wipe them with, you know. Yeah, I think that should suffice.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. Ask them to not come into the store, which I think it's at this moment in time, they probably will also appreciate that as well. So we have another question. Okay, so I have opened my clinic for business recently, but I'm hesitant to do an eye exam or new contact lenses fit because the number of cases are rising in my city. So any tips on what I should look for as a green signal to restart examination? So I'll shoot that over to a practice owner, Oliver first, and then Mr. Woon, if you do have some input, might as well do it after Ollie has shared his view. Ollie, over to you.
Yeah, probably what we're doing is we follow what the associations and the Department of Health recommendations for the like a full comprehensive examination. I think that is more safer to follow the government instructions and advice. I think that is very important. Yeah. Otherwise, some people might perceive us a bit differently. We just during this time of MCO or lockdown time, we still look for business. Yeah, we try to be a more responsible healthcare professional to let the public aware of this. Yeah.
Okay, so following the guideline from the association in your respective country.
Yeah.
All right. How about you, Mr. Woon? Any thoughts?
On our side, we work together with the Malaysian Optical Council, the Ministry of Health, as well as attending the what they call it. Trainings by various parties, which includes the ophthalmologist. So I think all the safety protocols must be in place, you know, in order you get your practice ready before you start seeing patients. So you must absolutely assure everyone that's in your practice that your practice at the safest protocols possible. So I think that there are a few things. Number one is number one, the declaration form. So your patient must declare that they do not have not traveled, have not been in contact, have not been quarantined, a whole host of questions, and they must declare it before they come in. And I think we have gone through the steps where you take a temperature, hand sanitizer, clean the whole place. There's a lot of protocols to be in place. All the patient must be on mask, you must be on mask, and every single equipment must be cleaned every now and then. So long as your staff or your optometrists feel confident to see patients, I think that would be the time to see them. However, we still ask our patients to, if they can postpone, they should postpone. In fact, interestingly enough, yesterday I got a call from my patient and asked, what are the safety protocols in your place? They want to be assured that our place is safe enough for them to come, So yeah, so there you go. I think see patients when you are ready and when your patients are ready. I think that's the key message.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Woon. On that note, right? So we do have a question about SOP, but more related to SOP for contact lenses clinic at the ophthalmology clinic. Are you aware of any of such SOP, or would you recommend we follow the existing guideline that are being shared in our local association and government?
So I think within an ophthalmology clinic as well as in optometry, it may be the same or it might differ because ophthalmologists may see other cases that, so it really depends whether you are in a hospital setting or in a private ophthalmology setting. So they may have different rules. I know that in certain, in hospital-wise, some of them require to wear PPE suits and so on, and face shield as well. Whereas I know of certain ophthalmology clinics, they don't even wear face shields. They sit, and to them, they say that for them, they think that regular washing of hands and the other safety protocols are in place. Some of them don't even wear gloves for certain procedures. So they say that gloves are not necessary about washing of hands. So it all depends on each ophthalmology clinic and each hospitals on their, as well as each government for their standards. So the health ministry has their own standard, and so for us in our private practice, we will follow that and we will up the standards. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know if there is such a standard in Malaysia, published or at least endorsed by the Ophthalmology Association in Malaysia?
I think those who are in the ophthalmology can do well to contact the MSO, the Malaysian Society of Ophthalmology. They will have their own standards as well.
Great. That's good. So this is actually very helpful. All right. So we do have another question related to how the association or even supplier government can help moving forward, right? So one of the questions is about moving forward. Are there any support that the ECP can have in order to help us to get through these challenging time, either from again association, government, or even supplier? Shirley, do you want to start, and perhaps we can get Mr. Woon's view as well?
Sure. So I'm aware that some suppliers are sending some care packs or personal protective equipment to support you. And at Johnson & Johnson, we will also be able to support with, as we mentioned before, content that you can share with your patients in this time to communicate and connect with them. So yeah, that's something to look out for as well.
Mr. Woon, any thoughts?
Yeah, so from the association side, I think that right from day one, I think if I track back on the 16th of March, before the lockdown came in force, we were frantically setting up safety protocols and safety guidelines. This is readily made available in our website. I have that background, so you go to the website, you can actually check out all the safety protocols that is in place, as well as we've been in contact with the government and various agencies as well. The other thing that we have done is we have given face masks as well as face shields to all the optometrists in the government hospitals, as well as in the private eye clinics, ophthalmology clinic as well. So we are moving into second phase where every AMO member, lifetime member, will be given a face shield, as well as we have just approved. We're going to work together with all the institutions of higher learning to provide, if they so need, breath shields for their slit lamps, as well as face shields, free face shields as well for those who need them. So these are some of the things that we do. So all the information is available, but do contact us and let us know how else we can help. We are more than glad to assist in whatever way we can, either via locally or also we can get the friends of our suppliers to help as well. I know that Zeiss is giving out slit lamp breath shields as well. Yeah, so I think all of us are doing the best we can. But so do feedback to us. Do let us know how we can help further.
Very good. I mean, thank you, Mr. Woon. I mean, it's really reassuring to understand from the association. Definitely, you're doing something for the optometrists. So thank you very much for doing that for the optometrists in Malaysia. Ollie, I mean, from you are an ECP, you are a business owner. Any expectation from the association or supplier, or at least from Australia perspective?
I think the association not expecting us too much, probably expecting us just be safe. I mean, we have to be safe. So in one way is if we encouraging more people coming out for normal examination, which we encourage people coming out, that we might increase the chance for more infection. So that's why we don't want people to come out. And government probably nothing at this moment because we have more priority in the Australian government. I think back to like one of the questions is how the industry or maybe association can help. Like I do on myself is during this time is why don't we just try to call our patients directly, show them we care about the patients instead of in the social media. I think, like I said before, we're missing a lot of the interactions, and it's a really good time that we can really have some real caring to our patients and to see we cared about them. Yeah, I mean, it might take a bit long. You might call 5 minutes per patient. You spend 3 hours a day. I think you will make a big impact to your professionalism in our professions.
No, that's very helpful. So personal care, you will prioritize a phone call with your patient, and if you know I'm an ECP, yes, and I would do both actually. So call and also you know, reach out to my patient through my existing social media platform and all that, together with a very warm phone call.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Yeah. So I think we can also make use of technology whereby some of my patients, you know, they say, hey, my eyes are red, and so on and so forth, don't feel too comfortable. What we can actually do is to take pictures as well as video of your eyes and then send it to you, and you assess whether, you know, is it time to see you or see an ophthalmologist and so on. So during the MCO period, I've actually catch one corneal ulcer that need immediate referrals to the ophthalmologist. You know, so these are things that we still can do, and we should tell our patients that we are available for them even through this mode.
Great. Yes, that's a very good advice. You are there for your patient. Okay, so let's go to another question. What would you suggest as an approach to encourage patients to continue contact lens wear despite a lot of myths on contact lens usage during COVID? How about if I direct that question perhaps to Paula? You know, getting some perspective from Taiwan. Is there anything particular that you and the Taiwan team or even the Taiwan optometrists are doing?
Yeah. I think there are two things that maybe we can do. The first thing is that following some practice of the Taiwanese ECP, they're focusing on users' lifestyle, their need. So focusing on this user's lifestyle, let them know what they need, what content can fit in, can fulfill their lifestyle. And the second one, I think based on Shirley's previous sharing, there are lots of resources that we can leverage. So for ECP, I think similar in Taiwan, you can leverage the other professionals' resource to support that wearing the contact lens with the right hygiene care is quite safe. So I think there are the two things that we can take here.
All right. So, and that, thank you, Paula. And that leads to our very last question here that I probably would want to direct that question to Shirley. With overwhelming resources available for practicing guideline out there during COVID-19, is there any best recommended guide for both consumers and the optometrists?
Well, like I shared, the good news is there's a lot of consistency, so you can choose any of the bodies, right? And they're saying the same thing. But I think at the moment, you know, the core materials at least are in a nice infographic form that are easy to follow for a patient or practitioner. And just hold this space because J&J will also be coming up with some great resources for you all as well. And just to point out that our next webinar will be really focusing about teleoptometry and how to connect with our patients. So to bringing that all together, hope you will join us for the next one as well.
Thank you, Shirley. Okay, so with that, in view of time, so thank you for the very interactive Q&A session with all of the panelists here. Sorry for overrunning a little bit, but we are actually at the end of our webinar session. So just to remind everybody, this is a CPD point event under category A7 by Malaysian Optical Council. You will receive an email to provide your feedback to us and to complete a brief quiz. You will have 2 weeks from the date you receive the email to complete the quiz. The attendance certificate will be sent out within 2 weeks' time. Once again, thank you, Mr. Woon. Thank you, Shirley, Oliver, and Paula for your sharing. And most importantly, thank you everyone for participating. Hope you enjoyed the session today. See you again in our upcoming webinars. Take care and stay safe. We will now end the webinar session. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.